Hey, welcome to day 4. Time's flying, so there's a flurry of information that we've covered so far. Just like always, we're going to dive right into talking about connecting chords with the C major scale. What's a C major scale? You're going to learn today. Let's also talk briefly about a recap of what you've done thus far, things that are really going to help you today. We've talked about string names, single finger chords, full chords, chord transitions, even getting into the chord transition challenge, which leads me to another question. How have you been doing with your chord transition challenge? Have you made it to those eighth notes yet? If you have, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to be able to hear how you're progressing with that. Now let's get right into talking about the C major scale. That was an introduction to a C major scale. We're going to be using notes from this scale to connect chords together. Specifically, we're going to be taking C major and A minor. I'm going to give you a brief description here about scales in general, but I'm going to give you a little bit more information, a little bit more in depth in the supplementary doc attached to the description of the video. So make sure you're checking those out for your homework as well, but also to inform you a little bit more than what I can give you through some of the videos here. So let's take a look at an intro to the C major scale. We're going to see how we use these scales to connect familiar notes together to chords. All the chords that you could get through this scale, you already have access to from day 2. So let's get started talking about something called the musical alphabet. All right, so let's talk about the musical alphabet. It ranges from A to G sharp. So I'm going to give you some examples of how this alphabet works and what the letters are, okay? So in our musical alphabet, you have 7 of what we call natural notes. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, just like our standard alphabet that we know, right? With those 7 natural notes, 5 of them have flat or sharp versions of that letter. A sharp. B, doesn't have one. C sharp. D sharp. E doesn't have a sharp or a flat. F sharp. G sharp. So you have 2 of these letters that do not have a sharp version, a B and an E. Now let's talk a little bit about another set of terms, half step and whole step. This can be important for you for a couple of different reasons. One, in tablature, it's going to help you to understand a little bit more about navigation of your fretboard, but also this is something that's going to really be needing to be understood to be able to get through scales, because it's going to need to be something that you have down pat. We're going to get there throughout the day. Okay, so I want to give you an introduction. Let's take your 5th string, your A string. Playing your A string open literally is the first letter of your alphabet, A. Okay? Now let's introduce you to A sharp and a half step. If you go from open A on the 5th string to the 1st fret on the 5th string, this is a half step. A sharp. This is a sharp or a half step to A sharp. Okay? Now, if you move to the next fret on the A string, the 2nd fret, this is a B. So far we're looking at an open A, which is a natural note, right? Half step is the 1st fret, which is going to give you an A sharp. And then another half step is going to take you to B, which is the 2nd fret of your A string, your 5th string here. Okay? Now I'm going directly, so this is half step so far. I've shown you every fret is a half step. Mostly. There's a couple of exceptions, okay? But this is what you can take away from the moment. Now, if you play an open A and then go to the 2nd fret on A, this is a whole step. A, B, because you're not playing a sharp in between. You're going straight to A, B. Okay? So A to A sharp, which is the 1st fret, that's a half step. A, which is open, to the 2nd fret of the A string. B, this is a whole step. Okay? Now, let's play the 3rd fret of the A string, the 5th string. This is a C. A sharp, B, C. In this case, because B does not have a sharp complement to it, its whole step is only 1 fret away. So this is considered a whole step, going from the 2nd fret of the 5th string to the 3rd fret of the 5th string, because you're going B to C with no sharp in between. Okay? That's the difference. So the B and the E that I called out earlier, they are only going to have 1 fret difference. So that's going to be considered a whole step. But moving through anything that has any of your other natural note letters that has a sharp equivalent to it is going to be half steps in between them. Okay? All right, now that we've briefly touched upon the musical alphabet, we can start talking about scales. Scales are organized in a very specific pattern that connect us from notes in octaves moving on to the next, right? So in this case, we're going to talk about an open octave C major scale, which basically just means we're going in the most simplistic version of a C major scale. Okay, there's many different varieties. That's a lot more theory that I'm going to introduce you to today. We're just going to talk about what's called an open octave C major scale. Scales can get kind of confusing, okay? And there's an actual formula that goes into being able to create a scale. In this case, our scale is 7 letters. Think about that for a second. You have 7 major letters, right, in your musical alphabet that I just introduced you to. And we're going to play 7 notes worth of those letters to be able to constitute this C major scale. So the formula is this, and this is going to be another tie-in to something I just introduced you to, half steps and whole steps. Okay, so the formula to be able to play a C major scale goes something like this: whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. There's 7 steps in that formula, and they're made up of whole step and half step notes, right? So I know, really confusing. Let's walk through this, and I think this might make a little bit more sense to you, okay? So where we're going to start playing our C major scale is going to be the 3rd fret of your A string, your 5th string. This is a C, okay? So C. Now, thinking about that set of formula that I just mentioned, if we take a whole step from the 3rd fret of the A string, right, taking it from C to here, what would this be? This would be a D. C to D, okay? Because C has a sharp, right? C sharp. So that would be the 4th fret. So this is a C. This sharp here, the next fret up, C sharp. Next fret after that, D. So as I mentioned, the formula here is whole step, half step for the first portion of it, right? So playing your C, we're going to move up to a D. And here's an interesting tidbit that you can take away. And this is going to start to introduce you slightly to how you can navigate your different strings and the fretboard. This note, right, this D that we're playing here on the 5th fret of the A string, if you play the next string open, the 4th string, they're the same note, D, right? So what I'm going to have you do is we're going to start, for the rest of this duration, introducing you to the scale. When we hit past the 5th fret, in most cases, we are going to step down to the next string and play that open instead, okay? So in this case, we're going to say the first letter of your C scale is C, 3rd fret, 5th string. Second is a D, so we're going to go open on the 4th string. This is considered a whole step. What's next? Another whole step. 2nd fret of your 4th string is going to be E. This is another whole step, okay? What's next? Half step. A half step is going to be 1 fret up. So 4th string, 3rd fret, F. Okay? Next, G. Take a guess what I'm going to play to be able to get to a G. If you guessed it open on the 3rd string, you were absolutely right. Open on the 3rd string is going to put me at a G. Okay, this is considered to be a whole step. Let's take another whole step. Second fret of the third string. Do you know what that is? A. What's next after that? Whole step to B. So what's that going to be? No, not there. It's going to be open. Your second string open. Okay. That's considered another whole step. So going, that's a whole step. Finally, half step. And that half step is going to be the first fret of the second string. Okay, this is an E. Higher octave E, as we call it. Let's play through this one more time. This is the foundation of a C major scale. Well, that was a lot of information. Take your time, really let it sink in. It won't make perfect sense at first, but I promise you in time it will. Okay, so as you practice through your C major scale I just showed you, I want you to apply something. Okay, we've talked about this concept in the past, but I want you to start doing this for everything as much as you can. That's alternate picking. Okay, so if you remember what alternate picking is, it's a downstroke followed by an upstroke, right? That's an example of alternate picking, playing eighth notes like we had covered before. I want to go through the entirety of the scale with you quickly, just to show you alternate picking, okay? So just quick recap. Let's take a look at the C scale and let's do alternate picking together, okay? So let's start with our third fret, fifth string, down, okay? Here's your downstroke. Next, fourth open. Then next, fourth second fret, then next fourth third out, then open, then second, then open, then first. Okay, so upstroke, downstroke. Now let's talk a little bit about those two chords that I originally mentioned that we were going to work on today, the C major and the A minor. Okay, I want to take a quick walk again through the C major scale, and I want us to be able to pick out what we call the root note of these. Okay, again, not going to go into extremes here, but I just want you to be able to pick up this quick concept, and that's going to unlock the song that we're going to end up playing as an exercise later. Okay, so let's start with our C. So we know that's the fifth string, right? The A string, third fret. This is C. All right, so let's start here at C. And then let's think of the C major, right? I said we were going to play a C major scale, or chord, chord. So let's try this. Well, C, the third fret of the fifth string, is your root note for a C major. Makes sense, right? I mean, it's literally the letter of the alphabet. In this case, that is the root note in a C major scale for a C major chord. Okay, so let's walk through what we have starting with C until we get to where a root note for an A minor is going to be. Okay, so let's start with our third fret, fifth string, C, right? Then we go to the fourth string, open, that's a D. Second fret, fourth string, E. Third fret, fourth string, right? F. Open on the third string, G. Second fret, third string, A. Now let's think about how we play an A minor. That's it. Third string, second fret, A is your root note for an A minor. Okay, so this is around about what you can expect in this range of us to play for our song to connect these two chords together. Let's take a look. All right, so let's take what we just discussed and put it together into an exercise song. We're going to be using notes from the C major scale and connecting those two chords that we talked about earlier. So we're going to take our C chord and our A chord, and we're going to connect playing those two by walking back and forth through the C major scale until we hit the root notes of what we want to be able to play for that next chord, and then go back again to play back to the center. So C major, walk up to an A minor, walk back for an A minor to a C major again. Okay. So here's how the song goes. We'll just jump right in. So we have a C chord. So we know how to play a C chord, right? We do 2 quarter notes there. Then we're going to play 2 eighth notes, which are going to consist of the 3rd fret on the 5th string, an open on the 4th string, a 2nd fret on the 4th string, and a 3rd string open. Okay, so that's going to be something like... Then you are going to play, for 2 quarter notes, your A minor. Now we have 2 more eighth notes that are going to walk us back to where we just were, okay? Which start with your 3rd string. So let's take a look. 3rd string, okay? 3rd string, starting on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Then open on the 3rd string. Then 2nd fret of your 4th string. Then open on your 4th string. Okay, so that's your 2 eighth notes. And then you're going to play 2 more quarter notes on your C. So we're going to go back and forth using the scale to get us to these 2 chords. You're just going to play this through 2 times, ending with a whole note ring on the C chord. So remember how that goes. So once you play through this entirety of this back and forth twice, when you hit this last 2 quarter notes of the C, instead of playing the 2 quarter notes, I just want you to go C, 2, 3, 4. That's it. That's your song. And like that, day 4 is in the books. As always, we touched upon a lot today. Don't let that light theory talk scare or confuse you too much. Just focus your scales and connecting your chords together. And that's going to bring a little bit of that theory together for you, enough that we have a foundation to start to work on. Okay, so as always, great work today. I'm very proud of you. Have fun, and I'll see you tomorrow.